Okay, so nice to see you all here today. Thank you very much for coming. We've already done the Happy Easter thing, but it's always great to be together with spiritual family on the holidays. So I really am grateful that you are all here. So it's a Community Voices service, which means we invite people from our community to come up and speak. And we have 6 wonderful people who are going to come up and speak. And we are doing them in alphabetical order. So the first one to come up is Al Gilbert.
Thank you, Reverend Tony. Happy Easter, everyone.
Happy Easter.
We're all familiar with the Easter story. It's been told for hundreds of years. We've learned it in church. But just imagine that the Easter story came about a different way. Imagine that there is no Christianity. Imagine that we're all either Jews, Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus, and some other things. And there are 4 producers sitting around in Beverly Hills at Synagogue Productions. And they're thinking to themselves, you know what? Remember that story we did a couple of years ago about the Christmas? You know, the Jewish boy who was born of a virgin mother? That was a big hit. I think we need a sequel. So let's fast forward about 30 years. And Jesus is now grown up. And he's living with his parents. He can't find a job, so he's assisting his dad as a carpenter. He doesn't have a lot of friends. He's got like 12 buddies, and he's never married. Doesn't have a girlfriend. Closest thing to a girlfriend is a reformed prostitute. So he must be gay. Nevertheless, he's got a lot of passion. He really believes that he is the Son of God. Now, at first he doesn't talk about it a lot. He's trying to get the public to figure it out for themselves. But eventually he has to admit that he is the Son of God, which annoys a lot of people, not the least of which is the elders of the temple. And the Romans try to ignore him, but the elders of the temple keep bugging the Romans to do something about him. So eventually they bring him up on a trumped-up charge, and he's unfortunately betrayed by one of his 12 homies at a dinner party. And then unfortunately he dies. He's crucified and he's killed. Now, the good news is, 3 days later, he's back. And in the same miracle fashion in which he was born, he's now resurrected. That's a great message, don't you think? Mm-hmm. And just in case you think the audience is going to get bummed out by this tragedy, at the end of the movie, there's a little voiceover that says, in the years and centuries to follow, his message was so important that people either learn through one channel that there is no sin, or they learn through another channel that Jesus died for all of our sins. So it's very uplifting. What do you think? That movie will never sell, don't it? But the point is, of my story, besides being the Reverend story, is that we get to tell our stories every year. And we get to tell them and retell them and reinvent them any way they want. So I was thinking, maybe this year is the year that I reinvent things a little differently. So what I mean by that is, normally at the beginning of the year is when we do our New Year's resolutions. This is the year I resolve to drink less. This is the year I resolve to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and exercise. This is the day I resolve to go to the gym. The reality is, January 1st, it's dark, it's cold. Who wants to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning on a cold, dark day? I say we do it on Easter. We reset the calendar for Easter, and we retell our story. When we get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, we go to the gym, and we feel good, right? So I think it's important that we take the opportunity to retell our story, but don't retell the same story. It's no good if you're still a victim, you just get a new party dress at springtime. Putting on a new dress doesn't work. So retell the story, make it work for you. You don't have to do it all at once. And if you can't walk 10 miles and lose 10 pounds, walk 1 mile, we'll lose 1 pound. But the beauty of Easter for me is that it is a great time to retell my story, reinvent myself, and welcome others to do the same. Happy Easter.
to see you here.
Thank you.
Okay, so our next speaker is someone that we haven't heard from a lot yet because she hasn't been here that long yet. But we hope to be hearing from her a lot more as the weeks and months and years go by. So let's give a nice round of applause for our new assistant minister, Reverend Kelly Halleck.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking kind of like, what do I want to share today? Initially I was thinking, well, what's Easter always been to me? And I thought, I came from a conservative Christian background for many years. And I had this thought today. It was it never struck me. I was like, we would always celebrate like, oh, Jesus died. And I was like, that's kind of a little weird. What kind of that? It's like, yay, he got killed. Okay. And I realized, but at the time the perspective was that was from love. So it was something we could celebrate. But it just kind of, I just had that moment today where I was like, I kind of felt a little selfish to be like, oh good, God died for me. And so I was kind of like, oh, hi Rosie. Rosie making a little noise there. And I realized that that's something kind of, at the time I think it was something that worked for me. I really embraced it. But it's been interesting the last few months, the word crucifixion has come up for me a lot. Reverend Peter a few weeks ago did a talk, and he said, what was it? It was crucifixion happens along the enlightened path, then what? And when I did it, he sent the tone, and I had like extra question marks, because I was like, what the heck happens, when you get crucified? And sometimes we don't talk about that. And then I happened to have looked, I'm not going to say the name, because it's somebody it's on YouTube, and this person's known nationally, had sent me an email. It's a good friend, and they said to me, I know your life, this was their email to me, they said, life for me has been very tumultuous. Geez, isn't this God stuff supposed to make it all easier? And he says, I get that, and he was referencing a situation, feels horrible. I know it's an important crucifixion for you, not as punishment, but as what the Holy Spirit is using to set you free on some very deep levels. The truth is that all this is for you. And it was weird, because I got this email a few weeks ago, and I only read it this week. And I was like, oh, it was the timing. I was supposed to read it right at Easter. To be like, oh, the crucifixion is for my good. And it's interesting. I've always got beads and jewels on. This one necklace is a new one for me I got recently. And for me, even though it's not a crucifix, it's actually from what they call a phoenix collection. And it's to represent the rising of the phoenix, which to me is very much the same story of resurrection. And it was interesting. I always thought it was like a one-time event. And then when I started researching it today, I was like, no, the phoenix, the myth of it is it actually died repeatedly. And then it resurrected again. And so I looked at that, and so I've been wearing this a lot, because for me, the last couple of years, it's like I've had, I thought my life got together, and then it fell apart, and then it got together, and it fell apart. And suddenly I'm realizing that, there are those times of crucifixion, and yet the answer for Reverend Peter is now what? Is you get reborn, and I can start my life again, and I can create it in a new, different way. And so for me, that's what Easter is. It's about giving up the old and embracing the new, and embracing, whatever beauty comes out of the next steps. Thank you.
She's coming back.
Where did she go?
Okay, thank you very much, Reverend Kelly. Okay, so our next speaker is someone who has been here for several years now and is working his way deep into the hearts and minds of all of us, and we really all love him. So let's call up our next speaker, Alex Melzadejo.
Good morning, happy Easter for everybody. What I'd like to share is how Easter used to be for me growing up and what Easter is for me on these days. So when I grew up back home, Easter is always a happy time because me and my brother, we always receive a lot of chocolate and sweet stuff from two grandmas, a lot of uncles, aunties, and neighbors. It was always a happy time, and me and my brother were very fortunate to have a big family that always spoiled us with that. So growing up, me and my brother, we always have a competition to see who have more chocolates, who make those chocolates last longer. And of course we cheat because we buy chocolates and put in a basket, make sure that we are the one who's lasting longer with the chocolates, get more chocolates from uncles that we don't see yet, and all that fun stuff. So through the years I grew up, and now I'm a mature man, and I've been living in America for years. And luckily I changed a lot, and what it changed is that before I used to be really attached to the chocolates and to the material things and the gifts, and I've been switching and shifting everything to be not so into the material but more into the energy. And my gift that I have this Easter, in the last 3 or 4 Easter, that instead of have a bunch of chocolate and eggs and happiness from that way, I have a new group, which is the CMC, and you guys bring me a lot of joy and happy. So you guys are my new Happy Easter every Easter, and that's a big difference for me because I really feel that working with the miracle workers and being here make me expand and make me be a better person, and reinforce the fact that the material things doesn't really have enough authority in my life anymore. So I was able to switch from all of that to be here right now and speaking. So I'd like to thank you guys to be my gift this Easter. Let me talk in here, share my little story, and make sure you guys understand how special you guys are for me.
Thank you, Alex. We all love that accent, don't we?
Yes, we do.
What is it about a man with an accent? Charming. Okay, our next speaker is also someone who has been around for a couple of years now. I don't know if she's ever been up here before. You ever been up here for what? One other time. So here she is again. We see her on Sunday. She's coming to the conference. Let's give a nice round of applause for April Nielsen.
Well, right now I'm in touch with my inner child who so loved Easter. It was a magical time, and it wasn't until I became older, an adult recently, that I realized that the whole story of the crucifixion and the resurrection was softened because adults were telling us, you know, keep focused on the Easter bunny and the Easter egg hunt. And so this story kind of came together in my awareness in kind of a strange fashion, growing up in a very strict Christian religion. And the remarkableness of this story to me now, and I consider myself a fledgling Course in Miracles student, is that in the story itself, there's this idea of there are many players and many parts, and there was the Christ awareness that was represented in Jesus the man. Then there were the Romans, and there were the apostles, and all the people who had a role in this tableau of a scene that has shifted the world, an event that shifted the world. And what I could never make sense of, and I still can't make sense of it, is how we could embrace with sorrow, as we have historically through religion, the story of what happened to Christ, to Jesus, the man, but not embrace each of the other people who were being crucified, and embrace the Romans who had this act and who did this thing, and then the people who were on board with it. And what stands out to me is that in the world today, there is a sense of alienation, a sense of separation that can be quite severe and quite profound. And it's a message of, for me, it's a cry for miracles, a cry for love. It's a cry for us to wake up and embrace each other and embrace that story of crucifixion in ourselves. And that story is where we separate, where we feel separate, either within ourselves or we have separating thoughts and evaluations and judgments towards others. So I wanted to just share a few messages that stand out to me. Grace is acceptance of the love of God within a world of seeming hate and fear. And for me, the course is about cultivating the sense of grace as my reality, so I can live as a vehicle of love, and that is what this time is especially sweet in my heart. This time is especially sweet because it's about the miracle of rebirth that occurs in every moment, in the holy instant. In every moment, there's a chance to be new and to be forgiven, to be reconnected with our true nature, our true spirit. And the last thing I want to leave with you is just the image I have of this time. And that was when my mother, at age 75, and my longest friend and champion, who'd been born in Taiwan, he was a tall Chinese man, went on an Easter egg hunt that I concocted. I got chocolate Easter eggs the size of goose eggs, and I hid them around this park-like area. And I stood upstairs and I would tell them, okay, cold, hot, 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 you're getting closer to this Easter egg. And they had their baskets and they were scampering around like little kids. And it was just so fun to see them feel the joy of this amazing holiday, and also to be reacquainted with their own innocence, because that for me is what the Course is. The Course is a miraculous journey of rediscovering our own innocence, and out of that innocence and pure love we can change the world. Thank you.
Wow.
Okay, thank you, April. Okay, our next speaker is one of our more recently ordained ministers. She's usually taking care of her grandson and not able to join us at Sunday service that much, but it's always great to see her, and always love to have her presence here. So let's give a nice round of applause for Reverend Jean Pope.
Thank you so much. Good to be here. You know, I may be the rebel here and actually take my 7 minutes. I noticed everybody is like boom, 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 and so I'll take my 7 minutes. Okay. And first I want to apologize to Rosie. All she was doing was being restful, being a beacon of light, happy as can be. And my cane came and thumped down, and she jumped out of her skin. And fortunately, she had a guardian who reached over and stroked her and pacified her, and she was back to being a beacon of light. Now, I know that's going to happen to me today, and just by walking in here, you all stroked me, and and I'm back to being myself. But as I'm leaving my apartment today, I looked in the mirror and I thought, not bad. And I said to my daughter, who's one of my 2 roommates, I found an angel and I'm wearing it as a necklace. She said to me, Mom, that is not an angel. That is a sacred symbol of Egyptian teaching. It's a scarab. And she, shows me, rolls up her sleeve, shows me a tattoo she had, when she was 14, which her father nearly erased from her. And she said, just like this. And I said, oh, so immediately I'm feeling not so much now like a beacon of love, I've been corrected. And then she goes on and she says, and it was also considered a symbol of the dung beetle. When the pharaohs died, they put a lot of dung beetles in the coffin to eat the flesh of the pharaoh, and so they would be just left with it. And I'm thinking, well, thank you for sharing. This is my life today. My biggest Easter challenge is to not have unloving thoughts towards my 2 roommates, my daughter and my 8-year-old son. Grandson, son, yeah. I love him to death, but is he a handful? I thought I've had him since he was 8 months old. And I thought I was going to have a grandson who was mellow and quiet, obedient, polite, considerate, loving. Instead, I get this bundle of irreverent energy who is noisy, who is disobedient, who is, I can't even find the words, maybe this is good. And he's very bright, but his hobbies are gaming and speaking gangsta rap. Now, how can Reverend Jean Pope, PhD, have a relative living with her who is speaking gangsta rap? You know, what the heck is gangsta rap anyway? I mean, where did he get this? Okay, so I'll give you an example of how irreverent he is. So Saturday morning, and this is still my Easter message, I want to remind you. Saturday morning, I'm in bed reading, you know, very, very peaceful in bed. And he's in his game room playing on his Xbox. All of a sudden, my silence is shattered, and this bundle of energy throws himself into my space, and he says to me, "My nipples are bigger than your nipples." I am so shocked. I look at him. What shall I do? Shall I throttle him? Shall I exile him? Shall I take him aside and explain to him the civility of what, polite discourse is about? No, I was too shocked to do any of that. I laughed. I laughed. And he left the room. He was happy. He got my attention. Okay. This is my life. This is my life. Okay. Nothing lofty about my message. My message is very prosaic. My life is very prosaic. It's not at all what I envision. However, I know that we get what it is we need. Universe is a fearless and persistent teacher. It will give us what we need to learn. And at some point we have to just trust that we had asked to learn these lessons. One point not too long ago, I even asked for an accelerated curriculum. Now, it's an insane thing to do, and I want you all as witnesses that today I want not an accelerated I am happy being a slow learner. Okay? I am happy being a slow learner, and I will take all the time I need so that I'm not accelerated in my evolution. Anyway, so Universe knows that I have a problem with impatience and anger. I have an issue with other people's anger, which means I haven't dealt with my own, which means I have not forgiven me for my own anger. So what does Universe do to this woman who's an Aries and the fire sign, and who the symbol of my horoscope is Mars, is the ruling planet? Okay. Universe gives me a teacher who is an Aries and a fire sign and has Mars as his ruling planet, namely my grandson. Okay, so that's currently my teacher. So we have an interesting dynamic, and dear Lord, I don't even want to look forward 5 more years to see what it's going to be like. I think I will send this boy to Reverend Vincent and to work with him. That is, he's a teenager. This is how you're supposed to behave. As the relative of a Course in Miracles minister, you're supposed to behave this way. Can you do this? Gangster rap. Yeah. Okay. So anyway. What I know about the resurrection now is not what I knew back then. Back then I was very, very focused on the resurrection of Jesus Christ, and now I'm focused more on my resurrection. And I'm not talking about dying and, after death, resurrecting. I'm talking about resurrecting right now, right here and right now. Reverend Tony alluded to it. We're all doing this. Unfortunately, we have signed on to be in this generation of the elevated self of form. That's according to the Course of Love, which is the first cousin of A Course in Miracles. And there has never been a species in the past that walked the earth as elevated self of form. Well, we are it. It's the first time that there are enough of us that we can sustain the energy of the elevated self of form. So we are in this daily mode of looking into our own resurrection. And this is what I want. I want to be my resurrected self. And I am very fortunate in terms of having a taste of what the resurrected self is like. And I write about it in my book, which CMC has, called To Heaven and Back. And this was an experience I had 29 years ago of really being catapulted out of my form without a near-death experience. It's not necessary. And experiencing what it is like to be the real self. And I won't go into it other than to say the overriding sensation, feeling, awareness was bliss. Just total bliss. And so, I don't know how blissed out we can be in this incarnation, but what's required of us, what's required of me is willingness. That's all. I need to be willing to learn this. How does one live as one's resurrected self? How does one deal with anger? How does one deal with the challenges in the day-to-day life on a planet like ours, which Gary Renard in one of his books has referred to as psychoplanet. So, yep, lots of experiences on psychoplanet. And April told me a story about this, just as before we began, about this movement in schools where they're teaching a curriculum about, it's the giraffe curriculum, like the giraffe is the tallest animal and it has the biggest heart. So they're teaching the kids, be the giraffe and look beyond when things are going on, when there's conflict and whatnot, look beyond. So, and that's a good piece of advice when I have conflict with anybody, including with myself. I have not learned how to be in harmony with my own conflict. I have not. I'm learning that every day. It's okay to have conflict with myself. I can still resurrect into my elevated self form even when I'm dealing with conflict with myself. So I'll be the giraffe today and be like Rosie. I'm grateful for the strokes and awaiting more strokes from the universe. Thank you and happy Easter.
Okay, thank you, Reverend Jean. Okay, and our final speaker today, again, one of our newer members, been studying with us now for a couple of years. She's currently enrolled in ACIM 2, which means at the end of the year she will get ordained. So that makes us all happy. We always love new ministers, and new ministers with such a lovely, sweet energy. As our next speaker, Leslie Sanchez.
Thank you, Reverend Tommy, for that warm introduction. It's greatly appreciated. And that's also my introduction as well. Okay, I've resurrected. So I'll start off by saying that I feel like a baby, a child, really, in this community. And with studying A Course in Miracles, I've only really been studying since the January of 2015, really. I was in Reverend Tony's class for ACIM 1. And so my understanding of A Course is really rather cursory, and so I'm looking forward to having more of a sophisticated understanding as the years go by. Cross fingers. And so I want to start off, instead of saying like what my perception of Easter has been in the past, but what it is now, and sum it up. It was something that I thought about, and I think I said in Tony's class, is that wouldn't it be really cool if instead, when someone passed away, that we normally say, may that person rest in peace? Wouldn't it be interesting to just sort of mix it up and say, raise the dead? Raise the dead! Because it's been my understanding prior to coming in here that there is no such thing as death, as we know it. And that there's a continuance of life, and it is just as if you would get the tarot card, the death card, right? That it is more of a transition. So it's the ending of one chapter and the beginning of a new chapter. And so it begins that you begin the cycle again. And so this is my understanding that the resurrection, or the crucifixion and the resurrection, is an example of our own journey, of the hero's journey. And of the phoenix, of the rising of the phoenix. So thank you, Kelly, for mentioning that, because that was also like imagery that came up in my head as well. And so yeah, that's where I am now, and we'll see what I think about Easter and what I think about the Course in the future. Where I came from is, so my understanding of Easter was more of a sort of child's understanding of Easter. So I'm not going to mention like the whole Easter bunny egg thing, because that was like cool, but it's like, well, what relevance does this have other than, just something fun to do? And I grew up Seventh-day Adventist. So those of you that don't know about Seventh-day Adventists, just really basic, we don't go to church on Sunday, we go to church on Saturday. So it's like Jewish people. And I didn't really have like a great understanding, because I think I left the church on my own accord, because it just didn't really resonate with me when I was about 14 years old. And then began on my own journey of finding something that really spoke to me. And so they don't, Seventh-day Adventists don't celebrate Easter in the same way that most Christians do. And in fact, I think I was doing a little bit of research. Again, I have a child's understanding of that denomination, that it's celebrated in 2 days, on Friday and Saturday. And the whole Sunday thing was never adopted because it was considered something that was pagan. And also the whole thing about the Easter bunny and eggs were also pagan as well, from my understanding. So yeah, so it was just more of like, well, want to just go out there and find something, some sort of community, some sort of faith that I can really get behind, that I don't have to follow dogmatically, that I can somehow inherently, it just speaks to truth to me. And so I'm going to quote actually from the reading in chapter 20 in the original edition of A Course in Miracles, paragraph number 4, definition: Easter is not a celebration of the cost of sin, but of its end to see we are sinless, or of its end. So in effect, that it's not a cost of sin, that Jesus didn't die for our sins, which is something that I never particularly got. I just like, okay, why? And to really see that we are sinless, that we are innocent. And for me, this really, it's like, oh yeah, we are innocent. Because I always felt that I have been, from a very young age, I've always felt like I have been innocent. And I felt like everyone else is innocent. And so I've been searching for a place and a group of people that also believe the same way. And so here I am. And thank you so much for welcoming me, and I look forward to the years to come. Thanks.